Hello, everybody. It's me, and I'm here to read a little something from one of my books. I have a book called Yoakum's Collection of Poems and Blurbs. Half of it's poetry that I've written over the years, the other half are little small articles I've written too. They didn't really fit into a short story, fiction. This is I just call them blurbs. This one I want to read to you is called What's Wrong with This House? And this is based off of a little thing that happened to me when I was about 10 at this house we lived in, which I could have sworn was haunted at the time. Looking back on it now, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Could have just been overactive kid's imagination. But in the years since, I have experienced some weird stuff, so it could have been haunted, you never know. So anyway, what's wrong with this house? And this is copyrighted, by the way, so don't anybody steal it, otherwise we'll come after you with our lawyers. I was woken up by my mother. Honey, I have to go pick up your aunt. I'll be home in about 30 minutes. Kissing me on the forehead, my mother left the room and went out into the car, taking off to pick up my aunt. I was only about 10 years old at the time, but this was way back in the middle of the 1980s. Back then it was safer to leave a kid at home alone for a bit. Back in simpler times, when kids could walk around town with impunity and hairbands ruled the airwaves. Video had killed the radio star, and the mall was a fun place to hang out on a Saturday afternoon. Fox was a new risque station with even more risque shows. But I digress. I looked over at the clock next to my bed and it said 5:15. It was still way too early. At the time, I didn't know why my mom was leaving to pick up her sister at this hour, but as I got older, I learned the truth. My aunt was going through some difficulties. I couldn't go back to sleep for some reason. Ever since we moved into this house a few years earlier, I felt something was weird about it. My dad, ever the skeptic, would always answer my concerns with, "Yeah, right." My mom was more sympathetic, as I'm sure most mothers are. I'd had strange dreams about this house on Park Street, most of them revolving around our basement. I know basements are naturally creepy places, but this one seemed more so than you'd expect. In the kitchen was the back door, and through that door was a small hallway about less than 5 feet. To the left was the door that led to our backyard, and to the right was the staircase that led to the basement. That basement. Even as I type this out, I'm getting a few chills up my spine, even after all these years. The basement itself seemed unremarkable at a glance. The first part was the laundry room. Off to the left was the room with the water heater. That tiny space was dark, and the only way to turn on the light was to go inside and reach up for the cord. But anyway, through the laundry room was another smaller room. In that smaller room there was another door to the left which led to the playroom. That room had a sliding door closet. Many times I had dreams that I was in that room and the door would open and a few dolls would pop out and stumble towards me. Right when they got up on me, I'd wake up, heart pounding, with a dread settling over me. But it wasn't just the basement that I dream about. Sometimes I'd have a dream I'd be walking through the house from the kitchen towards the living room. When you get into the living room, off to the left was the bathroom. In the dreams, I would walk into the living room and look towards the bathroom, and there'd be a man standing in the bathroom looking into the mirror. He's just standing there, still and unmoving. Then he'd slowly turn his head towards me, his face a blank stare. A grin would then spread across his face, but the grin held no merriment. And if that wasn't bad enough, he'd suddenly rush towards me at incredible speed. It would always scare me awake. But those were just dreams, right? That fine morning when my mom left to go pick up my aunt and I couldn't go back to sleep, even after a night of playing Super Mario Bros. Until well after midnight. It was the weekend, so I didn't have to worry about school. I debated playing more Nintendo, but decided to watch TV instead. I went out into the living room. Dad wasn't there. He was a cop for as long as I can remember. His weekend was Sunday and Monday, so he worked on Saturdays. I turned on the TV and sat on the couch. I don't remember what was on, probably news or infomercials. What the hell else was on that time of the morning in the 80s? Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed my parents' bedroom door. It was open. No big deal. I don't even know why I bothered to note it at the time. I turned my attention back to the TV, and as I sat there, I sensed a movement in my peripheral vision. I looked towards my parents' room again, and the door was closing. In that house, doors just didn't close on their own. Somehow I doubt it would have closed out on its own that way, that slowly and evenly anyway. I sat and stared for a long minute. I was waiting to see if it opened again. I saw a shadow move across the closed door, and that did it for me. I quickly jumped up, and still in my pajamas, I went outside and sat on the front porch. So there I was, 10 years old and sitting on the front porch at the front porch at 5:45 in the morning on a Saturday in the middle of a cold Kansas February. I was out there for probably 20 minutes before my mom pulled up with my aunt. She asked me what I was doing out on the porch in the cold. I told her I just liked the cold morning air. She shrugged it off and told me to go back inside. I spent the rest of the day thinking about what I saw. I never told my parents about it. I knew my dad would just say, "Yeah, right." My mom would just tell me I watched too many horror movies. That may be right. That may be crazy. But even at 10, I knew that doors weren't supposed to open or close on their own, and shadows don't move unless there's something making it move. We lived in that house for another year or two. It was a rental, and my parents had gotten a loan, and we moved into the house on Birch Street, where my parents still live. I never had any strange experiences in that house. Even now, after over 20 years, I still dream about that house on Park Street. Not all the time, but every so often. I'll find myself waking up after having a dream about walking down those steps into the basement, or standing in that living room and hearing strange noises. Even now, even after all this time, I can still wake up and ask myself, what was wrong with that house? Okay, that's it. That's the small little blurb I wrote. Everything else in here, poetry and other little blurb articles like that. The book is available, of course, on Amazon, and it's also an ebook for the Amazon Kindle, the Barnes & Noble Nook, and the Kobo, and I think several other e-readers as well, because I published it on Smashwords, and they pretty much take care of everything that Kindle doesn't take care of. So, once again, Yoakum's collection of poems and blurbs, also available in paperback. I got copies if anybody wants an autographed copy. Just email me. We'll work out the details. Until then, I want everybody to have a good rest of the day. As of right now, it is Saturday, September the 30th, 2017, 4:11 p.m., and I'm about to get back to work on writing my next project, The Demon Cloak of Hanael. And with that, I wish you all be seeing you.